In the last 3 years, I've taken 1,000+ DevOps interviews. Today, I bring to you top interview questions across various experience levels. These are not the typical what is Ansible or how do I configure Kubernetes questions, which you can find on Google very easily. These questions showcase an interviewer's mindset. I will also give you template answers so that you can formulate your unique responses. So grab your seatbelts and let's get started. Some hygiene factors to get started. Assuming this is a remote interview, always start with a smile, greet the interviewers and check if they can hear you clearly. You do not want to start the interview with audio or video issues. That's basic understanding. Okay. Now one of the typical first question is, can you give me a quick overview of your profile, of your resume, of your current role? Can you walk me through your typical day? Or can you describe to me the activities that you did yesterday? What's the interviewer's perspective in this? He or she needs a quick overview so that he can decide where to start from. She's probably just looked at your profiles 30 seconds ago. That's what happens when you're taking so many interviews, right? And all of the profiles pretty much look the same. What's your perspective? Have a very crisp answer ready. You want to lay a great first impressions in the first 30 seconds. How do you do that? Here's a 1-minute overview of your career path. I have N numbers of years of experience, currently working in this as this. Along the years, I've worked for services company for X years, product companies for Y years. My longest stint has been with X for N number of years. My most significant achievement has been I did this for this company and delivered that. It's a story you're describing in one line. If you're just in the initial phases of your career, an example, I set up the build process for Azure DevOps for .NET and Java microservices at this organization and helped reduce the build time by 68%. Clear, measurable, outcome driven. Another example, I helped configure the Kubernetes clusters, give some volumetrics here for this company and reduced the time to market by 40%. Or if you're a more senior person, I led the cloud operations, a team of 48 for this company and helped reduce the OpEx by 14%. Another example, if you're involved in the business side of things and helping in the growth of business, probably in a services company. I helped the European operations of this company grow by 17 million new business in the last 2 years by account mining and hunting activities. Let's say you're in the initial stages of your career, applying for a DevOps engineer position. One of the most typical common first questions is, tell me about your project, what current technology stacks are you working at, describe to me how your current team is structured, something to that effect. What's the interviewer's perspective in this? He or she is just warming up. They're looking for pointers to start asking the right questions. What's your perspective in this? You want to lead the interviewer in the direction in which you are most comfortable with. You want to leave some hooks so that they can start asking the questions that you want asked. How do you do that? You say, that's a great question. I will answer that question in a couple of ways, in a couple of steps. I'll start with the team composition. I'll talk about the tech stack. I'll talk about a couple of technology challenges I've solved. I'll tell you about a couple of initiatives I took. And finally, a reward that I got last month on this project. What have you done here? You have already told them that you know your stuff. You're confident of talking about it. And now you get into the details. But you give very, very specific informations. What do I mean by that? You say, for the team composition, we're an agile team of 8, 4 dev, 1 UX, 2 QA, and I'm the DevOps engineer in the team. In the tech stack. In the dev stack, we have Java Spring Boot with Angular as the front end, deployed on AWS with Oracle at the database. On the DevOps side, we have Jira with Argo CD for the CI/CD stuff. We're using Helm charts for the configurations, deployed over EKS, and we're using HashiCorp Vault for the secrets. Name the tools that you're most familiar with. And then, if you've really done this kind of work, tell them that I was in the team that was instrumental in choosing Argo CD. Earlier, we were on Jenkins. I helped in the investigation to move to Argo CD. What are you doing here? You're giving them pointers to ask, why Argo CD? What other tools did you evaluate? Why did you pick Argo CD? How did you do the POC? You get the drift, right? You're leading them by leaving the hooks. Next part. Talk about 3 technical challenges that you have faced and their solution. Technical challenges, very simple 1-line statement followed by 2 or 3 lines of answers. As an example, you say, I helped configure Argo CD across multiple AWS environments. And stop. Because the interview will not stop here. He would want to ask more. How did you configure it? How many environments do you have? Where is the master configuration sitting? How are you controlling configurations across multiple nested accounts? And so on and so forth. And you know these answers. That's why you let the interviewer hear. 2 initiatives that I took. As an example, you can say, we currently do not perform any static code analysis in the build pipeline. I saw this as an opportunity to improve. I researched and found 2 solutions, SonarQube and 45. I'm currently doing a solution, a proof of concept on SonarQube, and stop. And then the final part, rewards and recognitions. If you've got a customer appreciation, a monthly award, a quarterly award, now is a good time to talk about it. 1-line statement. I was awarded the Star Achiever of the Quarter for this implementation in the last quarter. What have you done? Right up front, in the first 5 minutes of the interview, you have established rock solid credibility. That's how you crack open the interview, and right in the interviewer's mind, he or she's going, I like this guy. This person is good. They know their stuff. Let's say you're in the about 5 to 10 year experience range, and the typical issue in this area is people tend to go less technical in this time, right? You're probably a lead, you're leading a team. And one of the questions which I very frequently ask is, tell me about a very difficult technical problem that you've solved in the last couple of weeks. What am I trying to do here? What's the interviewer's perspective? Gauge the depth of the technology problem that you will speak about. Gauge the depth of the solution that you're going to talk about, and see if you can answer the question logically and figure out if you can even talk technology, or are you going to give me a random managerial problem? That's what I'm looking for. What's your perspective? You want to demonstrate your technical knowledge in a structured way very quickly. How would you respond to this? You would typically say the problem statement in 2 sentences, maybe something like that. The database deployments in my project were manual. They were being done by the database admins. That caused a lot of dependencies in the overall deployment process. A lot of times the database deployments had manual errors, which is very difficult to track. That's your problem statement. How do I start debugging it? I research some possible solutions. I read about infrastructure as code concept and the tools available in this space. How do I consider solutions? I narrow down at 2 solutions, Liquibase and Flyway, since these seemed the more popular ones. How did I choose the solution? I chose Liquibase since it was open source to try out, and it has an enterprise version with some advanced features that we can potentially invest in. What are those advanced features? Talk about that. talk about memory, in-memory loading of the database and in-memory execution. You talk about code review on the fly. You talk about a couple of features there. As the follow-up actions, I'm done with the POC of Liquibase. I've showed it to my technical lead and my product architect and my dev team. They're very happy with it. And now we want to pilot this in 2 products to showcase success. That's how in this quarter you give the technology view of it. Step by step, defined, and very quickly in 1 or 2 sentences each, and pause where you want the interviewer to pause so that they can ask you the questions that you want them to ask. Let's say you're more experienced around the 10 to 15 year area, and one of the typical questions for you would be, describe to me one case study where you've implemented DevOps end-to-end across the entire software development lifecycle. What's the interviewer's perspective in this? They want to check the width and depth of your understanding. They want to check your ability to explain a transformation journey in detail. And most importantly, they want to check your comfort with the subject. What's your perspective? You want to pick your best, shiniest case study where you know how this shit has been done and explain it perfectly. You plot hooks to entice the interviewer to ask you the questions that you need. And one of the ways in which I have seen this done brilliantly is for you to create one slide on this. And as you get asked the question, you say, hey, do you mind if I screen share? And I have one slide which I've created specifically for this so that I can explain to you what I've done. Because I was expecting this question, right? You say that with a smile. Request for permission to screen share. Screen share. What have you done? You have wowed the interviewer. And let's say you're a seasoned guy about 15, 16, 20 years experience, and you're interviewing for a DevOps evangelist, head of DevOps, something like that, right? I got asked this question. I'm the head of business and I do not understand DevOps. In less than 2 minutes, tell me why I should invest in DevOps. What was the interviewer trying to do? Evaluate my ability to simplify a very, very complex answer. Put me in a spot and see how I react. Check my command over the subject. What was my perspective? Demonstrate to the interviewer the best of wit, subject knowledge, and confidence. What was my answer to this? I can answer this in 3 words. Does better, faster, cheaper excite you? If yes, I can do this for you. This was the exact question that I was asked in my interview at the Eastern European bank that I'm currently working in. And this was the exact answer that I gave. It worked. So hopefully, basis of what you've heard and basis of the templates that I've given you, you've had a good understanding of how to approach these questions, what's the interview's thought process, and what your thought process should be when you're answering this question. Let me talk about 3 bonus things here. Number 1, research the interviewer. It is perfectly fine to ask the HR person or the person from the recruitment team that you're talking to share the LinkedIn profile of the interviewer. Now, this might not happen if you're at the start of your career. They might not know who's going to interview you, but at senior levels, they definitely know who's going to interview you, and ask for this, demand for this. It's perfectly okay to do that, right? Why would you want to do that? Because you want to study the interviewer's profile and find areas that both of you know. Because DevOps is a huge area, the interviewer can ask pretty much everything under the sun. And you might not be comfortable with everything under the sun. So you want to find the intersection of things that you know and the interviewer also knows, and pop up those things early up in the interview so that you can be asked the questions that you're comfortable with. Number 2, research the company. What's their revenue? What's their market operations? What's their focused offerings? Did they have a new CEO in the last 1 or 2 years? Any major investments that they've gotten? Any major funding that they've got? What's their major go-to-market GTM strategy? Why do you want to know this? Because during the course of the interview, you want to pepper these in your conversations. What are you trying to do? You are trying to tell the interviewer that you are ready for this job. You have done your research. Third tip, ask feedback after the interview. And this is more valid for folks with lesser experience. At more experience, you would probably not be comfortable doing this. Totally understandable. But if you're in the early phases of your career, it's perfectly okay to ask the question, how did I perform in this interview? Do you have any feedback for me, please? And listen to the feedback. Sometimes you could get fantastic feedback from the interviewer. This is irrespective of whether they select you or not. That doesn't matter. But the feedback could be super critical. They could talk about your blind spots. Those are areas which you don't know because you don't know what you don't know, right? Could be super important. A corollary to that question, hey, do you mind if we stay in touch? I would love to be connected with you. I had a lot of fun in this interview. You might want to skip the fun part if you didn't really have the fun, but you get the point, right? Can we stay in touch? Immediately after the interview, send the interviewers a LinkedIn request. Why are you doing this? It's always a good idea to connect with seniors in your field. You never know. Hope you had fun watching this video and you could get some actionable insights from this which can help you land the next job. Let me know if this helped. And I'm also thinking of making another video on how to make a good, solid profile, one pager, and how to make a profile stand out from the hundreds and the thousands of other profiles out there. Let me know if you would be interested to see that video in the comment down below, and see you in the next one. Cheers.